Good evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite,
Melly Garthwaite at large, present.
Councilman Peter Rivera,
Peter Rivera at large, present.
Councilman Sean Ronan is absent, Councilwoman Ann Heffernan,
Here.
Councilwoman Nancy Tagliatella,
Excuse me, Nancy.
Sorry.
Councilwoman Nancy
Eating.
Tagliatella, second district president.
Councilwoman
It's okay, Nan.
Sarah Akbarali is absent, Councilman Gary Donovan,
Councilman Gary Donovan, 4th District, present.
Councilman Edward McMillan,
Councilman Edward McMillan, 5th District, present.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan is absent, Councilwoman Catherine Tucker is, I believe, on her way, Councilman David Beaton,
Councilman David Beaton, 9th District, present.
Councilman Ronald Quagliani,
Ron Quagliani, 10th District, present.
and Chairman Christopher Vargo.
Chairman Christopher Vargo, 8th District present.
And we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do you have the notice for tonight?
I do.
And when you are ready, could you please read it into the record?
Amended notice of special meeting for the charter revision, June 18th, 2026, 6 p.m., City Council Chambers, 3rd floor, City Hall. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Rule 4.5 of the Rules of Procedure of the City Council, Chairman Christopher Vargo has called a special meeting of the West Haven City Council to be held at 6 p.m. on Thursday, June 18th, 2026, in the City Council Chambers, 3rd floor, 355 Main Street, West Haven, Connecticut. The purpose of this special meeting is as follows. Deliberations and actions on the City Council's recommendations to the Charter Revision Commission for revisions to the proposed revised charter following public hearing.
Thank you, Stacy. Before we dive into wrapping up our work on the charter and having our final series of votes, what I want to do is to select the dates of our upcoming meetings. We have definitely scheduled right now next Wednesday, June 24th, starting at 6:30. That is our joint meeting with the Charter Revision Commission. It's at 6:30. I'm double checking with Chairman Kelly if we could start at 6. That would be my preference, so I will let everybody know. In speaking with council and with Chairman Kelly, we think that would probably be a good idea to schedule another meeting with the Charter Revision Commission. They have available next Tuesday, the 23rd. Just a show of hands, who is available Tuesday the 23rd? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we do not have a quorum. Do I need a quorum for that? No. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry.
No, you do not need a quorum for that. The conferral meeting does not, very often in smaller bodies, you do a notice for both meetings. If you know you're going to have a quorum at the meeting, you should probably do a notice for a council meeting. It's kind of a joint meeting. But the conferral simply needs to be you as the president and whoever else you want to have there.
Okay. Who is anybody available Thursday the 25th? Show of hands. Got one. Thursday the 25th. Clerk is not available. That would be a problem since you're clerk for both. Okay. And then I know that Chairman Kelly is looking to have their first independent meeting Wednesday the 1st. Councilman Quagliani, you just to confirm you are available that day? The 1st? Okay. Thank you. I'm not here that week. And you said you're not available on the 25th, right?
Yeah, I'm not available at the church, the Alzheimer's.
Yes, the Alzheimer's.
Can I suggest, rather than agonizing over this, particularly if you want to do a second meeting with the council, why don't you have your meeting with them on the 24th? That's scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
So that's technically the first meeting. And then at that meeting, you can either recess the meeting to a time certain where everybody can be to have your second meeting. That might be another way to do it, or just continue that meeting until a time certain.
The only issue is I don't know if Chairman Kelly intends to wrap up all of his commission's work on the 1st. I had talked about possibly having a second meeting because I'm not available that week. I know that Councilman Quagliani is available, and I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But just to the extent that they wanted me there, I had suggested the week after I could make work for them.
I think it's going to be hard for them to finish the work on the 1st.
Yeah.
I don't know if council agrees with me. You can't do it in one meeting. Yeah, it's not going to happen in one meeting.
Okay.
And I thought you were looking for a second presentation meeting, a second conferral.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might use but you can't be on the 1st, so you can't use that as a second part of the conferral.
Right,
Okay,
I can't be
got
there.
it.
Okay, so for those of you that can't come, and please be honest with me, would you mind if we have the first meeting on the 23rd, the second meeting on the 24th, or would you prefer that we meet on the 24th and then schedule a follow-up meeting after that? Please be honest with me.
I'm good with you guys doing that on 23rd.
Okay. Who else was not available?
I'm good for the 23rd.
You're good? Okay.
Yes.
You don't mind? Okay. Okay, do you mind? Yes. Okay. All right, so I will let Chairman Kelly know that several of us can be here on 6/23, and then we are definitely here for 6/24. So those will be our conferral meetings. And then, hi, Councilwoman Tucker. Just to let you know, what we're doing is we're picking dates, Councilwoman, for the upcoming dates. We already have next Wednesday, the 24th, as a conferral meeting with them. We are also having one on Tuesday, the 23rd, for whoever can make it. I'm going to try to do for 6 o'clock. If not 6:30, I will let everybody know once I confer with Chairman Kelly.
Mr. Chair, has that been coordinated with the chair or the vice chair of the CRC?
I have talked to him, and he said that he believed that he would have enough members, and he was supposed to let me know, but we were not able to connect. So I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow.
I can tell you on our group email from the CRC, he did launch that question and received all positive affirmation, yes, I could be available, but only from about 4 of them. I don't know what.
But again, since
he
no
was looking
action is
for.
being taken at those meetings,
Yeah.
I think that if he's comfortable and okay with it, then I'll work that without.
Okay, I don't want to speak for him, so
Yeah,
let
okay.
us know.
Thank you. Attorney Cassini, before you sit down, I just want to make sure that I understand after that, the CRC is going to be meeting on the 1st and probably at least one more day. It's expected, I believe, that once we pass this tonight, you all are going to transmit our recommendations to them.
Yes.
And that'll be on Monday, the 22nd.
Yes,
So they will have,
30 days from that date.
is that July 21st or 22nd? It's
July
22nd.
22.
Okay, so they will have until July 22 to kick it back to us. We then have 15 days from that day to vote on the changes, right?
Yeah, if they give it to you before that day, your 15-day clock starts then.
Okay. I need to coordinate with that with him then.
You do.
Yeah.
I've instructed each of you not to take the fully statutorily allotted time frame. I suspect, based on what I've heard from Mr. Kelly, that they're interested in doing it in shorter turnaround than those 30 days. But yes, if he gives it to you in 3 days' time, your 15-day clock starts at that day.
Okay. And as I understand it, we have to, within that 15-day period, is when we vote on the recommendations, but then we can meet separately from that to deliberate and vote on the
Yes,
question.
the time frame is only as to your acceptance or rejection of the recommendations that come in the final report.
So I really can't schedule our vote until I know when we're getting it. So I have to coordinate
That's
that
right.
with him. Okay. I'll go around the table, just to the best of your knowledge off the top of your heads. Any days that are absolutely no good in July for anybody? And I'll just start going around. Sorry. Thank you.
I believe I'm fine for July.
Okay.
I won't be available the 20th through the 24th.
20 to 24. Okay. Councilman?
I'm available, and maybe you want to just do a couple of meetings spaced out and just pick one when they deliver it to us.
Yeah, we could try that.
You know what I mean? Rather than have this conversation 3 or 4 times.
Yeah. Councilman?
My only day I'm not available is July 6th.
Okay. What about you?
I'm all yours, baby.
Councilman Quagliani?
I'm away the 20th to the 24th.
Okay. Councilman Vian?
21st, Bon Jovi concert.
All right, so it looks like the week of the 20th is just no good.
And I'm no good the 27th through the 31st.
I'm available.
I should be available.
Okay. So I will definitely not make it the 20th to the 24th, and do our best not to do it the 27th through the 31st. It's definitely not going to be the 6th.
And can it be, if it is the 27th through the 31st, it could still be virtual, we said.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you could do that?
I could do virtual.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's great.
Sorry, I have a correction.
Okay.
I'm not available on July 1st.
Definitely not going to be that day. So, great. Okay, so then once I have a better understanding from the chairman, and we will coordinate that, we'll set that out. Then we need to, what's our deadline to vote on the questions? Is that, I would say, mid-August? Sorry. I feel so bad.
You gotta give me one of those little wireless
those
mics, you
lavaliers.
know.
Yeah.
It has to be in the Secretary of State's office first week in September, so you probably need to have it sometime during the month of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
one of the years it fell so that you could actually have it at your first September council meeting, but I'm not sure what the exact date is. But we'll start working on the questions as soon as the commission comes up with its response and we have a sense of what the package is going to look like. We can start working on the questions at that point.
any idea how long it will take the city clerk to do whatever he needs to do to get that done?
The clerk needs to, the questions?
Yes.
The city clerk should be able to turn that over in a day.
Oh, okay.
The questions are done. They just send them to the Secretary of State's office.
Okay.
The other thing that we will ask you to authorize when you approve the charter is to authorize an explanatory text. It's usually my last project. The Corp Council actually have to sign it. But that's a neutral document that explains section by section the changes in the charter. You can't advocate. You can't say the 4-year term is great. There shall be a 4-year term. There will be a 4-year term for this office, for that office. And so we will ask for that authorization. And the other thing is once you approve the charter, we have to publish it in a newspaper within 30 days of the approval. And so I'll talk to the Corporation Council or whoever's going to go out and do that to see what we can do to negotiate with the Hearst newspaper to reduce their rate. Or do you have a local? You have a local.
We do have a
newspaper.
local paper.
That's right. So that's right. You do. I see it every time I come in here. Good for you.
Yes.
That'll save you a lot of money.
And before you sit down, so in your experience, 2 meetings for the questions sufficient? Or
I usually have the questions done the same night you approve the charter.
Okay.
Usually we have a pretty good sense. I will sit with the Corp Council. We'll probably talk to you, other people in leadership, and get a sense of where we think they are. I'm getting a sense already from just your conversations what I think the questions will be. Mm-hmm. There will probably be one omnibus question for most of the changes. You'll probably have a question on the term of office. You might have a question, depending on how things go with the library. They may be part of the omnibus question if everything works out with them. And then we'll have to see what other questions there might be. The only time I had controversy with the question was in Stamford, where there was an absolute war within the Democratic Party between the mayor's group and a reform group. And the mayor's group insisted on wanting to have something like 14 or 15 questions, which will kill a charter revision because they didn't care about the charter revision. So that debate went on for hours and hours and hours. I've never ever had a debate on questions that were more than a half hour, 45 minutes.
Okay, so witnessing how we've been working in this process, if we could start early enough, say 6 o'clock the night that we are able to pass the charter, and then just for safety's sake, schedule one more meeting that I can cancel if I need to, that should be sufficient?
I would think so. Look, I'm going to tell you something, and it's not to butter you guys up. I was telling the Corp Council this the other day. The deliberations of this council has been very, very impressive. I mean, I work with a lot of councils around the state. I've been very, very energized. My wife says, "Are you tired?" I said, "No, it was a great discussion."
Have her talk to us.
What's that?
Have her talk to us.
Okay, well, that's a different question. But it was a great discussion. But the point is, I think that you can get it done. I think you'll get it. You'll surprise yourself, unless there's a lot of debate on the charter. I'm hoping that by the time if there's a lot of debate on the charter when it comes back to you, we're in trouble. My sense is what I try to do is I try to really run a mediation session. I think you were calling it a negotiation session or something like that. It's a real mediation. When this goes back to the commission, we're back and forth with you, Mr. Chair, and you'll be back and forth with your members, and we will try to resolve any language changes in that Gesundheit, any language changes during that period of time. If we come back and we have long debates on anything, we're in trouble. Is my theory. I think you'll be surprised that your last meeting will not be a long meeting. And then the questions pretty much flow. And I will give you, what I will do is we get to the end of the deliberations with the commission. I'll send you, and you can send them out to the entire body, examples of how questions are developed. So you can see how I phrase questions. In my 30 years of charter revisions, you'll get a lot of different examples of questions.
How does, just as a safety net, how does August 5th look for everybody for the last meeting for the questions? Good? It's the final meeting for the questions on the ballot, August 5th. Good for everybody? Good there? Good for you? Oh, okay. Okay, so you don't. Okay. Councilman Tagliatella, August 5th. Okay. So this is what we'll do. I'll talk to Chairman Kelly. Next Tuesday, the 23rd, and Wednesday, the 24th, will be our joint meetings with the CRC. Try to have them at 6 o'clock. We're going to have to put a pin in when we receive the charter. I'll work with Chairman Kelly about that, but I do have the blackout dates except the week of the 27th. If we can have you virtually, that'll be good. And then we will schedule 6/5 at 6 p.m. So I will notice all of those. 8/5, sorry. 8/5, you're right. All right. So my plan, unless the attorneys disagree, my plan is to start where we stopped yesterday. Keep going. Attorney Cassini, this latest draft that we have on our desk incorporates the changes we made yesterday, right?
Yes, I stayed overnight to get that to you. No, just kidding. It was after last meeting. You'll recall last meeting, I was typing on my laptop as we went. My laptop died. So I transmitted what I had in paper onto that document, sent it to Attorney Mednick last night. This morning, Attorney Mednick did us all a favor, myself at the top of the list, and found ways to reduce the number of recommendations that you had. It totaled more than 50 as of yesterday, because I had every single instance of an alteration that had been recommended as a separate recommendation. Attorney Mednick has grouped them together in a way that may be more digestible by the CRC. So after my handiwork was his, and now you see what is the most up-to-date version of this. Keep the one that you had last night if you made notes on it, but looking forward after today's meeting, you should be using this one. If there are more that are done today, we'll do the same process again, and you'll have it. But like we said yesterday, today is the last day for all of these things. So the one that goes out, the one that's done by tomorrow is done, and Monday will be the final version.
Okay, so my plan was to start where we stopped yesterday, go through the end, and then compare the 3 sets of minutes from last week, the 9, 10, and 15 minutes, to make sure that everything that we had voted on is incorporated here, just as another set of eyes, and then whatever the final actions that we need to take.
Sure, you're starting with Chapter 7.
Yep.
Chapter 8 has been removed because The functionality and substantiveness of Chapter 8 is now in Chapter 6, as was voted on last night. So skip 8, you'll go to 9, and then there's 10.
Okay.
We did not have a bunch of discussion at CRC on either 9 or 10. I don't think there's a ton that came out of this body either, but this is your chance.
Okay, so we are starting on, if you're looking at the document that was distributed today, we are on page 45. Chapter 7, Departments and Department Heads.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I've got a supplemental document that Chairman Donovan is handing around, or that Councilman Donovan is handing around. It's in reference to a question you asked. You'll see highlighted in yellow. The question that came up, this must be 2 weeks ago now. Terms for department heads and the terminology used to refer to those terms. Coterminous, concurrent with, at the pleasure of, etc. Attorney Mednick put together a more digestible cheat sheet, so to speak, in this graph that lets us see as things exist now with regard to appointees, department heads, and how their term of office, so to speak, is referenced in charter.
The city treasurer, we changed from being at the pleasure of the mayor to having a termination hearing before
We did that last night, yes, and this document was created, I think on the 15th or the 16th.
Councilman Heffernan?
I hate to ask because I might make you get up again, but the differences between the police chief and fire chief, indefinite and unspecified? Is there a reason for that?
I'll look at the language. I'm assuming I got that from the charter. Yeah. I think the charter on the police chief is silent. I should have said silent. The police chief is specifically an indefinite term. I'll take a quick look at the fire chief.
Is there a recommendation that we somehow
It's silent.
Make this uniform?
Well, I wanted to give you the different examples of what we have here, and the question is, what do you want, and what applies to each of the positions? I don't understand what concurrent with the mayor. I understand what that means, and I also understand what at the pleasure of the mayor means. In fact, I would read them together: concurrent with the mayor, at the pleasure of the mayor. Because if you make it concurrent with the mayor, and I'll tell you, this happened in New Haven, in the office that your corporation counsel worked in. My successor, as corporation counsel many, many years ago, succeeded to my position, and she and the mayor had a very bitter fallout. And she argued, my term is concurrent, you can't fire me. Most lawyers understand that if a client loses faith in you, you're fired. You're not going to continue to work for them. But she took that argument. So I've always been worried about using concurrent with the mayor without having another qualifier on it. Concurrent with the mayor, however, at the mayor's pleasure.
I think we discussed that here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my problem with that that action. So I would do some combination of concurrent with the mayor. The other was a term equal to that of the mayor, unless the mayor decides otherwise. The building official has a 4-year term because it's a statutory requirement. Superintendent, we really can't deal with. They have a term of up to 3 years by state statute. You can't really, with the police and fire chief, there are statutory protections, so you can't really make them serve at the pleasure of the mayor. They're not really appointed by the mayor. The mayor gets a sign off on them, but they don't get appointed by the mayor. So, I mean, my general view would be, in my experience, a lot of these department heads do get terms, but I don't think we've done the research to determine whether or not we want to establish terms. And I think that if you have a very flexible system, You may want to retain it, and you may want to look at it for the future. But so I would do some combination of concurrency, but at the pleasure of the mayor. So some combine that somehow.
Okay. Councilman Beaton?
Counselor, does
Yes,
the
sir.
word silent mean that they negotiate their own
No,
contract?
silent means that there's no reference to anything in that section.
Thank you.
That's all that means. Silent does not apply to anything in my life.
Does anybody know if the assessor is a union employee?
Yes.
Yes, you know, or yes, she is.
Both.
Thank you.
I think so.
You can tell I work for lawyers.
Can you use the word at the mayor's discretion? Or that's,
Yeah, you can say subject to the mayor's discretion. You can probably fashion something to that effect.
So my feeling is that we have too much to do tonight, and this is tonight's the drop dead night. We don't have the bandwidth to take up this project, and if it wasn't done at the CRC level, at least they didn't look at it in the first instance. I don't think that we can and should. Is there anything?
Or you can ask them to take a look at it, and we'll work it out.
Yeah, I
during
just
that
don't know
period.
how much time they have to do that
Yeah,
either.
I got it.
I mean, we could ask them, but if they decide not to, that's
And you'd want to
fine,
get
too.
feedback from the mayor, because the mayor would be the person, unless she doesn't win re-election, would be the person who's most immediately affected by these changes. And we've had no due diligence in that regard.
Is
So
there
I'm not.
any-
Yeah, I'm not.
Is there anything
encouraging
on
it.
this list that's problematic in your view?
No, I look. I think that there should be a consistent standard. That's the only thing. That's the only thing I would say is that I don't like when a charter has multiple standards for the terms of office. My preference personally, but this is not Mednickville. This is West Haven. My personal preference is that you hire these department heads for a term of office, and it could be subject to the discretion of the mayor, but the mayor has to provide laudermill hearings and all that. There's due process rights. And the reason for that, from a policy perspective, is how are you going to attract somebody to head up a department if they're simply serving at the pleasure or the will of the mayor? And so New Haven's models, New Haven does have a 4-year term for most department heads. And that 4-year term doesn't correspond with the beginning of a mayoral term. So mayors are very often confined with department heads or with department heads that are in the middle of their term or have 2 years left on the term, depending on when they were hired, because again, they don't come in with the mayor and leave with the mayor. But I think that system works pretty well. You want to have some at the highest levels. I think your director of finance, maybe a few others. I'd have to know more about the town, about the city's structure and who the power players are, that you want to have as confidential employees that would be subject to the mayor's will more than the others. But my personal feeling is on department heads, you'd want to give them a term of office because I think it makes the job more attractive to an outsider with qualifications as opposed to somebody who's willing to work at the will of a mayor.
Councilman Tucker?
I notice here that there is a health officer that isn't listed under the board's section. It came from somewhere in the charter because that's where you found it, but I'm not sure where it is. And so my wonder is, because it's not in the budget either, if we should chase those down to make sure that they are appropriate to be listed here, because there are, I'm sure, implications of having it in the charter, but it's not in the budget book as listed position, potentially.
Could we make a generic motion just to request that the CRC takes a look at this, both for, to Councilman Tucker's point, the appropriateness of the positions and whether or not they actually do exist within the city staffing levels, and then also see if they can come up with a recommendation of some sort of a uniform standard of terms. And if they do, fantastic. If they don't have the time to do that. Neither do we, so we're no worse off.
All right, so number 31, recommendation number 31, I think that's where we are, Mr. Corp Counsel, am I correct? Would be a recommendation for the CRC to review the terms to see if they can come up with a coherent alignment of terms. If they can't, they can't. That's what it comes down to.
And add something to Councilwoman Tucker's point. I think we should do that.
Well, I was just going to say I found what she was looking for.
Oh, okay.
If you take a look, do you want to do your motion? The motion this wouldn't be related to the motion.
If it's not related, then
So
yes.
You want to act on that first,
Yeah,
and
do you
then
have that
I'll
written down?
answer a question.
Yeah, I just have that to request that the CRC take a look at the terms of office for department heads.
To determine whether there is one term that you can align all the department heads with, to come up with a common standard for all department heads.
Good enough.
Babel. I think you get the point.
Let me know when you're good.
To determine that you can align one.
To determine whether you can come up with a common term of office for department heads. A standard term of office for department heads.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did somebody make?
May I have a motion? Motion from Councilwoman Heffernan. May I have a second? Second from Councilwoman Tagliatella. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
So to answer the councilwoman's question, if you go to page 57, so we're jumping ahead a little bit, under community service functions, the health officer term comes under 7C is health officers, and 7 it's officers, and 7D is the health director. And I have to tell you, I am confused because the health officers refers to the statutory qualifications that, and maybe the Corp Counsel could look at this while we're here in real time, in 19A-200(b). I believe that applies to the health director, the actual director. I could be wrong on that. And then you go to the director, which is the next provision, and you don't have the reference to the statutory definition. And I know that there is a statutory definition for directors, a statutory qualification for health directors. Am I correct on that? I believe I'm correct on that. Yep. The Corp Counsel's checking. And so I didn't understand, and I did not, I guess we did change it. We put it in the section, but I'm not sure what your health officers are. They don't sound like department heads. They sound like line officers who work for the health director.
They're not in the budget.
Yeah, so I
don't know where they show up. You know.
So if they don't exist, I don't know why you would create them, and they're not in your budget. Why you'd create them in your charter? So I would prefer. I'm looking to the Corp Counsel for his thoughts on this, to consolidate it and really focus on the health director and any other employees as they may need to operate the department, rather than have this concept of a health officer. But again, I didn't want to be presumptuous. It's a position that's in your current charter. Did you find that section? So the Corp Counsel confirmed that the reference that we have under health officers is really the reference to the qualification for the health director. So I would recommend that we combine the section, or basically eliminate the officers and combine the language to make sure that the proper qualifications are set forth for the director.
Okay. I'd like to try to keep things as uniform as possible for the clerk in the minutes. Councilman Tucker, would you put a note on that, and then when we get to that section, we could address that?
Sure.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
And it would help with the numbering as well.
Yes. Okay. So we're on page 45, chapter 7. We'll address this in sections until we get to the individual departments, and then we'll start breaking it down. Again, I'm just going to go through them, wait a few seconds for everybody can take a look at the language, make sure it's doing what we thought it was going to be doing. If I'm going too fast, or if you want to say something, please just get my attention. So we'll start with section 1. And this includes the new language for the qualifications that we are going to set up, establish ordinances to detail what the qualifications are for each of the department heads. There's no time requirement on that, correct? On the qualification ordinances, we don't have to get done by certain dates, just as we're able to get to it. Okay, thank you. And then subpart E, we just took care of.
The only thing I want to say, there's no time frame for starting it, but once you get into it, you should do it, look at it every 4 years, or whenever there's a vacancy in the office. So whenever you have a vacancy, you may want to look at your job description to see if the qualifications have changed. There might be statutory changes. There could be best practices that have developed between the time you had a description and now. So there are time frames in there. So I just want to clarify.
Thank you. Moving on to section 2, Corporation Counsel.
I couldn't let this section go without my edit, of course. The chair had suggested that we insert language that said that there will be a corporation counsel appointed by the mayor who shall be an attorney at law in good standing and admitted to practice, but you have to be admitted before you can remain in good standing. So I reordered those just to be that kind of person last night.
Just that guy.
That's right.
This is going to be your legacy here.
God willing.
The Cassini Amendment. Okay, we'll move on to the finance functions, and we will look at the Department of Finance subpart A. For sections 8 and 9, all we're doing is just capitalizing the headings. Is that right? I don't think there's any. Those are just stylistic changes. Page 50. Okay, thank you. Answer's yes. On page 51, could we review very briefly subpart 3, liability?
Can we go back to 50 for a second?
50.
I had raised a question on the city deposit fund because, and I had a note here, is this change correct? There was something at one point called the Water Pollution Control Commission.
There still is.
There is.
That's the commission that oversees the.
So we should take authority out and use the term commission there.
No. Well, there is a commission, but the department, for lack of a better word, is the authority. Authority. But they do have a commission that oversees the. Right.
We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and again the other day when we were discussing the reordering of the position of the Water Pollution Control Commissioner, which is now Danielle Morrison, out from underneath the engineer and placed evenly with the director of DPW or commissioner of DPW. There's no mention on the website of the Water Pollution Control Authority. It's called, You have the facility, which is the actual plant. You have the WPC commission, and then you have that position as the commissioner. But there is nothing I can find of the WPCA in West Haven. I think that that's just nomenclature we've all gotten used to. But I don't think that it is an actual administration. All I can find is Water Pollution Control Commission and Commissioner and the Water Pollution Control Plant.
Councilman?
Well, I guess my question, so they're almost like the Allentown Fire Department, right? They're segregated. They have a separate budget that they administer their budget and set their own fees. That commission has the responsibility of doing that.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think it's the Water Pollution Control Authority. But I think what's your budget books?
That's how it is in the budget. Yeah. It's the authority, and then we have the commission. But I think what I'm hearing from Attorney Cassini is that the authority might actually not exist.
I just can't find it anywhere in the records. No, and it doesn't operate like the Greater New Haven WPCA or Bridgeport WPCA or anything like that.
So, Attorney Cassini, is it your theory that just the word WPCA is just something that the city has adopted to generally refer to the operation of the water treatment plant? Okay.
I think we all call it the WPCA because that's what everybody else everywhere else calls it, and that's how we refer to it, but it doesn't actually show up as that title. Now, this may not have any actual effect, but it might.
You could still have a WPCA if you call it the Water Pollution Control Agency. So that if there's a issue of changing the like the name on the Kennedy Center, which could be very expensive, you would not have to change WPCA, but you could call it agency instead of authority. And as you recall, we now have agency under both commission definition and department definition, so it would work with the agency, with the department, and then you leave the commission, which is also already referenced as the commission, so you don't end up with this ambiguity, because when you see the word authority, you think of a statutory authority, which is a quasi-municipal entity, and I don't believe your WPCA is a quasi-municipal entity.
Councilman Donovan and then Heffernan.
Councilman Cassini, did you mention, you said Bridgeport, or Bridgeport's a WPCA?
Yes.
And somebody is New Haven. So is it because they take other towns in?
They
Is
do,
that why
but
they're called the authority?
They do, but it was also I was there when we had the authority, and it was just New Haven. But it was a separate entity. It was not a department of the city. It was a separately incorporated entity under a statute that allows you to create the authority. They own their own property. They can issue bonds. There's a whole series of things authorities can do that departments cannot.
All right. The only reason why I was asking is if the word authority for those towns and cities meant because they take other towns in.
No.
That's something we're looking to do in the future. That's
Yeah,
why I didn't want to change.
you can create authorities that are within the town, like a lot of parking authorities are authorities within the actual community. WPCAs have established regional level authorities, but New Haven's was originally just New Haven. They expanded it over the years. And that's when we took it out of as just being a New Haven-based authority to being a regional-based authority.
So my question is, and I don't mean to be snarky about it, but we are under the wire tonight. Is this something we have to care about? Is this something we have to do?
No, it's not a hard thing to do, but the only thing I want to do is I want to make sure we revert back to using commission rather than authority. I made that was an editorial change I made to make it consistent with everything else, but I think if you have something called the commission, we should continue to call it the commission.
Does anybody know who has authority over that budget? Is it the director? Is it the commission itself? Does anybody know? No. But once the appropriations are made, who actually administers the budget? The director does, right?
They have their own. Sorry, they have their own like title,
Mhm.
and that's what they send when they send out notices, they call themselves the West Water Pollution Control Authority.
Authority. Okay.
I mean, I don't care what they call themselves. They can call themselves Boof Twitty Nubba, but
How do you spell that?
I'm just saying they can call themselves whatever they want, but we just have to agree on it.
Councilman Tucker, did you have anything? Oh, you had your hands up. She's still trying to figure out how to spell Boof Toonie Nuba or whatever.
I just hope that it matches whatever it is, because I don't want to give something legitimacy or call it something and it's not aligned throughout all of our documents. I'm just worried about a fight later on over a title or a name or a power or whatever have you.
And if we're going to be working on it and making these changes, they should be the right ones.
Right. So, I guess what is the right one? Yes.
Can we change the name in the budget book? As a council, can we just, if we change it in the charter passes, or do we have the authority to go back to the budget and make an amendment to the name of the department in the budget?
We could do that next year.
Next year, but not now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. I mean, we just.
Councilman Corleone?
I mean, take your pick. Councilwoman Heffernan said the Water Pollution Control Authority, which is one. And then on the website, they call themselves the Water Pollution Control Facility. And then.
That's the plan.
Right. And then the director comes under Water Pollution Control. So take your
Period.
pick. Take your pick. Yeah, take your pick.
And you will see in a moment, when we get to page 56, that we talk about the Water Pollution Control Administrator at the Water Pollution Control Facility, and there's no reference to the authority. So actually, when we restore commission, I don't know, is authority anywhere else in the document, Kevin? Can you can we just check that and see whether that? We're going to check and see if this is an issue. We're raising an issue in search of a problem.
Chairman, if
Yes.
I may, we've already made changes, and we are calling them the Water Pollution Control Commission. That's what's already been established by us already here. Earlier, like page 3, it's on page 3, and I'm sure there was a bunch of other pages that we had them at. So I didn't know we want to be concurrent and stay with commission. I don't.
Plus, no one has to pay to change signs somewhere.
That doesn't make a difference to me.
We're just looking to see if authority is used in relation to this anywhere. Because you're right, we did fix it. We fixed the commission and the definition of departments.
Councilman Beaton? Oh, I'm sorry. Councilman Garthwaite.
I'm a little confused because if they're calling themselves the commission, isn't it the water pollution? We have a commission, but they're calling themselves. You're saying they're calling themselves, so it's confusing to me. I guess.
Well, we've made changes. We made changes in here already, and we're calling them. We were calling West Haven. Water Pollution Authority. Now we changed it to Water Pollution Commission. I'm just saying we got to be.
But I think to the councilman's point, we have an appointed commission, and then we're referring to the operation of the treatment plant facility, the commission. So now we sort of have two commissions.
Right.
It's a great commission.
Yes, I mean these guys went to school longer than me.
Right.
I don't care what.
It's changing
We're still going to call them WPCA because that's what we're used to.
Right.
So I don't. I think we're just prolonging.
It's in the definitions. We're going to take a brief recess. Okay, the time is 6:56. We are back on the record. Just took a short break so that the attorneys could do a little bit of research. A couple more questions have come up. Attorney Cassini, would you be able to hopefully quickly determine if the Water Pollution Control Commission is established by ordinance because it's not established by charter?
I think it's chapter 224.
Of the ordinances? We're not on the record. We need to please be on the record. Two 22-4.
It's in Article 2, Chapter 222, not 224, but that was close. Establishment and purpose. There is hereby created a commission to be designated and known as the Water Pollution Commission of the City of West Haven, hereinafter referred to as the WPCC. Purpose for which the commission is hereby created is to develop, approve, and aid in the implementation of a user charge system as herein defined, to provide for a fair and equitable distribution of cost to the users of the city's wastewater collection and treatment facilities.
You may have to add to your list of to-dos 222-14. Removal from office for cause by the mayor, but doesn't prescribe a process.
And that's for a member of the commission,
Right.
commissioners. That's not for the department head. But 222-12 names that position as the Water Pollution Control Administrator. Mayor shall appoint an administrator whose duties shall be to act as liaison between the WPCC, City Council, DPW, DEP, and Office of Tax Collector, Director of Finance, and Mayor. This individual shall work with all the foregoing to ensure compliance with state federal regulations and compliance with billing procedures established by this chapter. So that's the position that we've been talking about. It's the WPC Administrator. And that's what you see in this version.
So I think this ordinance is probably going to be next on our list, right? So if you go to funds established, it says user charge operating fund. There is hereby established the WPCA user charge operating fund. So the A is still.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to take time for
No, I don't mean
tonight
today,
to-
but I think again, the overseer's term in the budget book is superintendent, right? And this says administrator. So I think it's a to do maybe later.
And to make it worse, if you go to 222-19, the annual budget, A says at the regularly scheduled meeting in February of each year, the Director of Public Works and the WPCC Administrator shall submit blah blah blah. And then section B, not later than the third Thursday in March, the mayor shall submit to the WPCC a proposed budget. This is all out of whack with current practice. Yep. So, okay.
You can earmark this to be picked up. This sounds like a September problem to me.
Yes, me too. So, for purposes of tonight, what is the path of least resistance for us?
Chair asked, what is our path of least resistance to reconcile? Well, and maybe the question is the indication in this new version of the charter to the position itself is administrator. It is consistent with current ordinances, not consistent with the current budget book. Yeah, go ahead.
My position would be that if the two legal codes, your charter and your ordinances, refer to the administrator, I think those rule, and you should fix your budget next year.
Okay.
And then the other thing you have to do is look at the job description. What is the job description? So you may have to modify the title under the job description. That's why I in calling somebody an administrator in the charter doesn't mean that's their job title either. That's the other way I would look at it. Because I think the way we framed it is there would be an administrator for water pollution control. So you might be able to have flexibility to call it something else as well. So I don't think we, per se, I'll take a look when I sit down, but I don't think we set it up as a job title per se.
Okay. And then realigning the commission ordinance is a fall-winter problem, and nothing we need to worry about there. So for purposes of tonight, we should be okay to move on.
All corrections would be a post-November problem because if you don't change your charter, you don't change those things.
Good point. And then it's Christmas, and
Yeah.
it's next year already.
The holiday season. Hanukkah. Also, don't forget Hanukkah.
Okay. So we will continue to move on to page 51. Oh yeah, my initial question. Either Attorney Cassini or Attorney Bendick, just want to spend a few seconds on subpart 3, footnote 224, liability. We added, or the line items established by the Board of Education. And I think that this was to bridge the gap between, since the finance director of the Board of Education doesn't have the same functions and authority as the finance director of the city, this language bridges the gap between those two positions.
That is exactly correct. We don't have the reference to the finance director of the Board of Ed. The finance director, my understanding was that the finance director of the city has to sign off on all of these things, and I wanted to make sure the parenthetical included the line items established by the Board of Ed.
Okay.
That's going to mean that the Board of Ed's line items should have some integrity. If they're going to contract under a line, that better be correct. Otherwise, they could be in violation of this section. So I think it's a way of disciplining the Board of Ed. Make sure that when they tell you this is what we're doing, even though they can change it, we understand they can change it. That they better make sure that what they're doing is consonant with their line item. So it's not a trick. They still can change their lines, but there will be a line item that they have to abide by.
Mm-hmm. There is nothing else. We move on to the tax collector. I did speak with the mayor today to obtain some clarity on this. It is her intention to have the current tax manager absorb all of the responsibilities of the elected tax collector and then change the title from tax manager to tax collector. That is her intent with this. I know that there was just some back and forth discussion and supposing that, but it is. So these changes then with that in mind, council, these changes are fine with to accomplish that goal? Thumbs up, great. Excellent. Page 53, subsection C, the assessor. Okay, moving on to section 4. Functions of the city treasurer. Council, on footnote 242, do we need to remove the reference that says serves at the pleasure of the mayor, because that's not correct? Sure.
Chairman, it's also 13.
Councilman? I'm sorry? Yes. Thank you.
Councilmember Heffernan brings up removal of such treasurer. There's a slash in there because you've been using the term supermajority, but I think supermajority for you means that should be 9 of the 13, not 9 of the 12.
Yes.
But supermajority doesn't always mean specifically 9. It can mean whatever you define it to mean. So if you'd want it to be 9 of 13, I'd rather just call it out as 9 of 13, but are you sure that there will always be only 13?
Yes.
Okay, then 13.
Unless we go through this process again. Yes.
Then 9 of the 13 will obviously qualify as supermajority. I'd just be that specific rather than by supermajority.
I think that was our intent. Everybody just nod your heads if you agree with me. Yes, everybody, great. So we hope we're all bobbleheads.
Yeah.
Councilman Donovan.
Yep. My only question is, if say we needed to vote tonight, we don't have 13, so we can't vote.
No, we need 9. You need 9 yes votes.
No matter what.
Correct.
So right now we would need the 9 of us.
We would
9 out of the 10.
and we would all have to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So 9 out of the 10 of us we need to.
Okay.
Okay.
So again, Chairman, with that, we don't need 9 out of 13, correct?
You have right. What it's saying is that
Just be supermajority vote.
well, no. If we only have 9 members at the meeting, all 9 have to vote yes because it requires 9 votes of the 13 total members.
Okay, I got you. All right.
Councilman.
What does that mean if you don't have the majority of the people at the group that make up the 9? If there's less than 9 people there, you can't have the vote.
That's right. Similar to the budget process, and our rationale when we were talking about it was that this is such an important vote that it should not pass by a simple 7 majority. Any further discussion on section 4, functions of the treasurer? Okay, moving on to section 5, human resources and personnel. (54) and 55. There's a note on footnote 253, subpart B, Director of Personnel Labor Relations, terms subject to review. Oh, duration, term of office. Got it. Understood. So that's going to be addressed with our recent recommendation. Okay. Moving on to section 6, operation functions. There's a question from Attorney Mednick. How does the COO position fit in?
I've been told it does not. That it shouldn't be taken up by charter.
Okay. So it's more or less just it's going to be a position once filled that the mayor will then determine the scope of that individual's or that office's
Correct.
authority and oversight.
Correct.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Councilman Quagliani?
I don't remember where we left off last night regarding referring to the Village Improvement Association or referring to the West Haven Public Library in the document.
You're talking about operation functions, Department of Public Works.
Yes. But I
The
think
mention there is specific to the buildings, structures, facilities that are under the ownership and control of the VIA, because we do send DPW there for trash pickup, snow and ice removal.
Okay. Thank you.
Continuing on chapter 6, section 6. Page 56, footnote 258. There's nothing we need to do. Water Pollution Control Administrator.
Want to have that conversation again?
I don't. Just want to make sure.
Nope. Water Pollution Control Administrator is in the title and referenced throughout. Water
Okay.
Pollution Control Facility is called out. And the administrator shall organize the work of said facility.
Okay. Section 7, Community Service Functions. This is where we need to look at subpart C and revisit the health officer.
Spoke with Director Carano, who is the operator and chief manager of that department. Above the health department, he says there are no such things as officers in that department.
So then I assume it makes sense to remove them out of the charter, so it doesn't seem like it's a mandated position. That leave that up to an executive decision within her discretion for the staffing levels.
Well, you could do that, although I would suggest that the remainder of that body is actually in reference to a health director. Mayor shall appoint a health director who shall behold the qualifications set forth in CGS 19A 200B. D and C merged together.
I'm sorry?
B is coordinator of the youth services, so that's not related. C, health officers, and D, health director.
I thought you said B.
Those can be combined because although C is titled health officers, there are no health officers, but the body of it, the substance of that clause, is in reference to the qualifications of the health director. The next D clause talks about the functions and tasks of the health director.
Okay, so we should move to combine section 7, subparts C is in Charlie, D is in dog, and title it Health
Director.
sure the clerk has that motion. I'm just making sure the clerk has the motion. We're in chapter 7. Okay, may I have a motion to consolidate chapter 7, section 7, subparts C and D, and title it Health Director?
Motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Donovan. Do I have a second? Second from Councilman Tagliatella. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. There's nothing else on section 7. We can move on to section 8, public safety. There's a question on page 60, subpart 3, the fire marshal. City of West Haven, Allentown, Board of Fire Commissioners, question mark.
My question was whether the reference to Board of Fire Commissioners should simply be the City of West Haven, Allentown Board of Fire Commissioners. That's all. Just to make sure the title is consistent.
Yes. There's nothing else. We'll move on to section 9, land use and planning functions. There's nothing. We'll move on to section 10, educational functions. There's nothing for education. We'll move on to section 11, public library functions. Councilman Garthwaite.
The only thing I see in this section is just a small spelling error in the new section B. The word section in the first sentence.
Councilwoman Heffernan?
We're going to leave the Village Improvement Association in, even though they're a nonprofit organization. That we talked about. I don't know. I thought even.
Mr. Chair, I sent you some language earlier today that came from Attorney Mednick that was a proposal to address what Ms. Heffernan just brought up, but also what came up in the public hearing and what was the thrust of much discussion last night on the record. I don't know if you had a chance to review it. We can go over it on the record if you'd like. Much of this is pending a conversation we have scheduled with the attorneys that represent the library and I presume the VIA as well, to figure out what their concerns are with specificity. I know you had two members speak live, but also a letter that was sent over the signature of the VIA yesterday as well. So I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at what I had sent to you.
Yes. So I think that part of it answers Councilman Heffernan's question, then part of it answers a direct question that I asked the two of you by email after discussion with a few of the council members. So let's take it in parts. Councilman Heffernan's point, please correct me if I'm wrong, Council, but because the West Haven Public Library is administered by the VIA, I think we have to say that in that part of the charter, but generally everywhere else, we refer to it as the public library because that's what we're funding. So I think that's the intent of why the VIA is in subsection A.
I think much of that is still to be determined by our conversation on Monday because you heard testimony that they treat what comes out of your budget as a grant, not as funding directly for the library, but as a grant to the VIA. Mm-hmm. That's why they ask for it in block, and that's why they don't submit line item requests. That's why they're not subject to the procurement process because they get the money. They treat their budget proposal almost as a grant proposal instead of a budget proposal.
Okay.
We did hear public comment last night that because they are a nonprofit, that the money is not allowed to be conditioned. That's not true by law. Even if it were a grant, and this were a grant-giving body, and I'm not willing to concede that, but even if it were, for sake of argument, grants are conditioned all the time. And so there could be many conditions set on grants. In fact, I would suggest that if this were a body that solicited donation as a foundation, for instance, and then chose who were to receive those grants, the conditions would probably be significantly more stingy or more handcuffing than the budget proposal.
Mm-hmm. So we had made a motion last night to have a broad recommendation to the CRC that allows them to take a look at specifically this section and make adjustments in accordance with what we have articulated on the record several times, but we didn't want to get very specific because it's going to be subject to what you all, you two gentlemen, are able to discern from your meetings with the library's council. So we're still comfortable that that motion's sufficient. Thumbs up, great. One thing I do want to bring up, so we heard a request yesterday from Mr. Heffernan about minimum funding at 1.5%, possibly leading up to that point. While I fully support the library and I believe that they should be properly funded, I am very hesitant to having minimum funding standards because that creates another MBR situation that we have with the Board of Education. It means that no matter what, there is a guaranteed amount that has to go there. We can't go any less. However, being sympathetic to what Mr. Heffernan said happened several years ago where the library was drastically cut and, in their opinion, put them at the verge of having to shut down. I had asked the attorneys if there's something that we can entertain, maybe or maybe not do, but something we can entertain where we could put a provision in the charter that puts a cap on how much they can be, how much their funding can be reduced in a year. So while we can't guarantee that they will receive X, and we can't guarantee that they're going to increase by a certain percentage every year, that maybe we can guarantee that they won't have 50% of their budget slashed in one year, and that provides some protection. I don't know if that's something that we want to entertain, if that is simple enough to do without a lot of heavy lifting, but I think that you gentlemen had some very quick language drawn up that might be able to solve that if we were interested.
With the caveat that the meeting that we will have, Attorney Bendick and I, on Monday, may shed significant light on this and color conversation with the CRC and between these two groups. Presuming that will go well, but planning for it to fail, this is some catch-all language under a heading Annual Budget of the West Haven Public Library. And I believe that this addresses the idea that the VIA is a separate institution from the library. And thank you, Councilman Quagliani, for his historical research that he sent to the attorneys on the history of the library. This is what would be generalized catch-all language. Annual budget of the West Haven Public Library. The library shall adopt and forward to the mayor its proposed annual budget in accordance with the procedures and timetable established for other departments. The mayor's budget shall include, and the council shall appropriate for support of the library and its employees, at least the amount necessary to maintain the staffing level as approved in the previous annual budget, unless the library requests a lesser amount.
Okay, so practically what that means is that we will fund them. We guaranteed funding enough to make sure that they don't have to lay off anybody. However, that doesn't mean that they don't have to cut line items such as inventory, other operational costs.
I don't mean to be glib. Do they have line items?
Yes, during the budget process, we do receive. It's not as expansive as some of the other departments, but we do have books and some utilities and things like that.
You could change it to staffing and materials, staffing and if you want to specify it, equipment, whatever you want. The idea was that I believe there was testimony that previous administration had gutted, slashed, halved the budget, which had essentially left them on death's door, and they were barely limping along, I think, until the current director came along. They were considering closing up shop, which is nothing that anybody here wants to do. So this is a protection against that. Understanding that flat funding is not the increased proposal that was requested last night. On the record, you'll recall they asked to go a step up to get to a $3 million rate, or at least a guarantee of 1.5% of the annualized budget. This certainly doesn't do that. But the main thrust of last night's urgency was that tonight is the night to do something, if ever. And so this might be something that allows us to open up the conversation again later next week with the CRC.
My concern is that if we put something in the budget that says that eventually, when we get there in a gradual sense, that we will fund them 1.5%, it really puts the city and the city council in a position that the same position we're in with the Board of Education, that it is what it is, and we have absolutely no discretion. And if there's something that we need to let go, we don't have that option. But I am very sympathetic to learning, because I personally did not know that in previous years their budget was slashed that significantly, and I would really hate to see that happen again. So if we could offer some kind of protection that doesn't essentially handcuff us during the budget process, but it still provides them some protection, I'm certainly willing to entertain it, and I'll open that up to see what the body thinks. Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, they did get slashed, but so did just about every other department. My concern is if we put something in there for any department, for one particular department, other departments are going to want the same type of guarantee. And we don't know, maybe the next thing that comes around 10 times worse than what happened with COVID, or something else dramatic happens where we can't fund them, not just them, any department, anything. Everybody has to kind of take a cut. That's the only thing I worry about down the road. Of course, I'd like to fund everybody as much as we possibly can. But to have it in writing, now we're held to the fire, basically. The city is held to the fire with that, in my opinion. That's all. I'm just one opinion. So.
Thank you. Councilman Garthwaite?
I share the same sentiment as Councilman Donovan. I love the library, but every single thing you said is exactly what I was thinking. If we give it to the library, we've got to give it to everybody. And we just don't know what the future's going to hold. And I love the library. I'm always renting books and using it for copies and, all that. But I don't feel comfortable putting that into our charter. Not at this time.
Councilman Quagliani?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I think this handcuffs really the mayor in the budget process. So if we continue to do this with departments, again, as Councilman Donovan said, the library wasn't in a vacuum all those years. A lot of the departments got cut because we had an entity called MARB that was here that slashed a lot of things. I mean, I looked at the budgets that go back to 2018 all the way to 2026. And yeah, there's 2021, 2022, 2023 were lean. I think they were 0.85, 0.89, and 0.90 of the entire city budget. This year's budget, they have 1.15% of the city budget. But I don't believe that this is the right venue for that. It should, minimum budgetary requirement shouldn't be in a charter. I really believe that's what the budget process is for. And I'm hopeful that moving forward with the language we have in the charter and the enhanced cooperation that we'll want to give, we'll understand better and want to be able to fund the library like we want to fund so many other departments. But I think it's our responsibility year to year to make sure that we're fair and balanced to not only every department but also to the taxpayer. So. I'd be opposed to adding charter language regarding a minimum budgetary requirement.
Anything else? Okay.
My opinion is that we shouldn't do anything about this here now. Allow Attorney Medic and I to meet with their counsel on Monday. I think that will shed all light on this, and then this can be directly addressed in joint session or with CRC in the remaining time.
Sounds like a plan.
I also want, I totally agree with the Corp Counsel. I want to make sure that last night I dictated some language for this section. That has been approved? That's the language that was basically saying that we're going to review the language to achieve a balance in the relationship. Do you remember that language? Was that approved last night?
That was approved last night.
All right. So that should be in, we did not move that into this section because we actually didn't deal with that. So do you have the language, Mr. Corp Counsel? I do not. Does the clerk have the language that we can actually see what we, I have the language. I have what I think is close enough so that I'll make sure it's put in there. All right. I just want to make sure it was approved.
While you're standing there, on page 65, we've crossed out subpart B, but there's still language in there. And given the context of that language, should that come out?
I think that's the final sentence of new B, the department language. Yeah, so
I'd recommend leave everything as it is right now so we can take it up after we have this conversation on Monday.
Very good. Okay, Chapter 8 has been stricken in its entirety and moved up. No changes in Chapter 9. Just chapter numbers. Yep, just chapter numbers. Page 72, Chapter 10, the budget.
I just want to say this for the record, if anybody is actually following along, because you have stricken Chapter 8 and moved that into Chapter 6, Tonight on your document, you'll be referring to, going forward, Chapter 9, Chapter 10, and 11. Do we have an 11? 9 and 10. But in future documents, there is no 8, so 9 becomes 8 and 10 becomes 9.
Got it. So we are on present chapter 10, the budget. It will be chapter 9. No. Yes. Yes. Okay, so subpart B, we just included the West Haven Public Library and the department estimates. And then we collapsed subsections B and C together.
Chairman?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just looking, maybe I'm confused here. In section 1, subsection A, it says authorize the representatives of the Village Improvement Association. Should that still remain in there, or should that be removed? Unless I read something, I probably read it wrong. I just didn't know if that had to be removed.
So this section, my understanding is that this is saying that representatives of the Village Improvement Association, so the mayor will have the authority to require representatives of the VIA to submit the budget because it's the VIA's budget.
Okay.
Right? Attorney Cassini? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, what we might add is the VIA on behalf of the public library. Just for clarity.
Okay.
It just recognizes the reality. They're in the charter now. They are going to remain in the charter. We don't know what the language is going to be. And if we're asking them to submit information, the mayor should have the ability to ask for the information.
Any other comments on the budget? Okay. Moving on to current chapter 11, soon to be chapter 10, miscellaneous provisions. Section 4, retired personnel.
Section 4, retired personnel. Remember, you agreed to recommend that CRC send back to you the addition of the clause unless otherwise set forth by ordinance.
Okay, right. So that gives us the flexibility to allow retired personnel
Yes.
to work for the city again under
Yes.
an ordinance. Okay. Anything else on miscellaneous provisions? Okay. Does everybody have the minutes that I handed out yesterday? Yeah. And the 9, 10, and 15.
My understanding is the remainder of your time is to go through the chapters that we just looked at tonight to be sure that the motions that you passed in your previous minutes appear in the remaining chapters that we looked at tonight.
Right. Is there other work that we need to have? What other work do we need to have accomplished tonight?
No.
So
None. That's it.
Do we have a final vote to send
Yes.
it to the CRC?
Yes. After you're completing this belt and suspenders, we should take a vote to send everything that we've done here and that you've asked to be sent back to CRC approved tonight.
Okay.
That way, tonight and tomorrow, Stephen and I can work on it so that it's shipped and with Mr. Kelly and Miss Perry on Monday.
Okay. Very good. This is what I'm gonna do. I'll go through this with one or two of you, but we'll take a recess to 8 o'clock. Time is 7:42. Okay, the time is 8:05. We are back on the record. During the break, Councilwoman Tucker and I went through the June 9th, June 10th, and June 15th minutes, compared all of the votes that the City Council took with the revisions that are in the charter, and have confirmed that all of our action items have made its way into the charter. Council, thank you very much for that exercise and getting it to us so quickly. And I believe that Councilman Quagliani wants to bring up one final point of discussion.
Sure. Why would we want to end before 8:30? So on the minutes from June 15th, one of the motions that we made and approved unanimously was amend Chapter 2, Section 6, small a1, that should there be a vacancy in the mayor's seat within the first 34 months of the mayor's term, a special election will be held within 60 days of the vacancy. So I was wondering if maybe we should, instead of having such prescribed finite language, should we put some flexibility in there? So for example, what happens if the mayor resigns and there's 65 or 70 days till the regular November election? Do we have to stand up a special election and spend $60,000 more for that election? Or could we just say the next regular election? So there's one every year, right? The governor's 1 year, the president's another year, the local is another year. So maybe that would give us a little bit of flexibility, but I'll defer to the chair or the council.
So the council member called this morning, told me that he was going to be raising this issue, and I thought since it was the last meeting before we send it out, that it wouldn't be presumptuous for me to come up with language just in case he's able to persuade all of you of the merits of his position. So I just wanted to tell you what I did. I agree with him that the numbers were very confusing to me, not because of any drafting issues, but when you start throwing in that kind of numbers, I was never a math guy, more of a verbal guy, as you could probably tell. So what I did is I came up with language, and it was also clear that the councilman wanted to make sure that it was tied to any general election cycle. So we're not setting it up just for the municipal cycle, so that if a vacancy occurs, and there's one other issue that we need to go over now that I'm in this section that we may have forgotten about. If a vacancy occurs and there is time to petition to get on the ballot in the November election, remember, you're going to be on the general election ballot as a special election. It'll be a coinciding election. The special election will coincide with the general election. If you have time to get on the ballot, you will go on the first election that comes up. So I think it's 60, 80, 90 days or something like that. So you could probably carry vacancies until July, August, maybe September. And if that occurs, you can get it on the ballot in that November. If not, you're going to have to wait till the following November so that the acting mayor would have an extended term. So the language I came up with, which is on your document, which is in the document on page 13, says, whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor, the successor shall remain in office until a new mayor is elected and qualified, following the next general election where mayoral candidates can qualify and be placed on the ballot as a special election for the remainder of the term. So that if you're in the if it's in the first year of a 4-year term, you remain in office for the remaining 3 years. If it's the second year, you remain for the following 2 years, the remaining 2 years. So I think that gets us where we need to be without all the numbers. And so I just wanted to pose that language. It's on page 13. It says SGM 13R2. Alternate language.
Just going to give the members of the council a minute to read that.
Yep.
So, Attorney Mendick, playing devil's advocate, what if the events that took place that would necessitate a special election happen at a point in time where we just missed the ability to go onto that general ballot?
The acting mayor would remain in office until the next general election a year later. So if it occurred, let's say, in October 15th, there's no way you get a special election qualified for 3 weeks later. You would be on the ballot in the following year.
So the acting mayor at that point would be in office until, so essentially 13 months plus or minus.
Correct.
So then it would be not your recommendation, but it would be our option then is to strike section 6A
2.
in its entirety.
6A2. And then replace it 6A2 with that language. So you would I'm not sure I call it necessity of special election. Well, it isn't a special election. It's still a special election, even though it's tied into the municipal election. I would replace the language into, I would call it, I would not call it special election. I call it necessity of election, or election of new mayor or something like that. We'll play with that. But I would replace the language in A2 with the language in the alternate language in the column on the side.
In the comment SGM 13R2.
Yes.
Okay. And then you'll just figure out the title of that section.
We'll come up with a title.
Clean that up.
A more pithy title.
Councilman Quagliani, any thoughts?
No, I mean that's I think that provides flexibility, and I don't want to get into a loop where we have to call a special election for September or October when there's already a general election in November, and then have to spend that extra expense to stand up a whole election. So I think the most that someone could serve is 13 months. So I don't think that's excessive.
Terry Med, is there a way that we could tack on if there were to be an election for town committees or March in off years from the...
Those are primaries.
Those are primaries?
Yeah, so you can't... I mean, you could have your special election on the same day as a partisan primary, but again, you don't achieve the purpose of having it in a general election. The idea of putting it on the general election ballot is you have more attention paid by the voters.
And that presupposes that there's going to be a primary. If there is no primary, then we're talking about a special election just for that office. Then,
that is
right?
correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you want to make a motion?
Sure. What page was that on?
Page 13.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we revise the language for necessity of special election to read, whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of the mayor, the successor shall remain in office until a new mayor is elected and qualified following the next general election, where the mayoral candidates can qualify and be placed on the ballot as a special election for the remainder of the term.
Do I have a second? Second from Councilman Rivera. Any discussion? Councilman McMillan?
I just want clarity. I'm just trying to understand what it is Councilman wants to do. Can you just explain that, maybe in layman's terms, what it is you want? No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, so we were very prescriptive in saying, I believe, 60 days.
Correct.
Right? So what happens if the mayor resigns and it's 65 days until the general election, or there's 70 days until the general election? Then we kind of box ourselves out, so we're going to have a special election, and then in another 60 days or 65 days have a general election. So that's what I was trying to avoid, to kind of give us some flexibility so we don't have to stand up a special election for in the course of a special election. If there was because there's always a general election once a year. There's always a general election, whether it be gubernatorial or presidential or municipal. So I figured if we waited till that November election, then we'd save ourselves some money.
Because the way I thought Councilman Rivera explained it was within the first 34 months. Okay, let's say 36 months, 3 years. If there was an issue, we would immediately have an election, correct?
Yeah, this kind of takes out the hardness of the numbers, and it's actually kind of classes up the verbiage. So basically, if the mayor were to leave at any point in time in a year, if there's enough time to get an election on the November ballot following, we can do that. It's almost exactly the same thing without the hardness of the numbers, is the way I read it. And it's actually perfect for a charter because you really don't want something that's hard and fast in a charter. You want it to be ambiguous enough so you can change things with ordinances or if you need to make any changes. But this is great because anytime during the year, if the mayor were to go away, you just go to the next election. As long as there's enough time to notify everybody, set up the election, it's almost the same. And
Okay, so with us moving it potentially, and it goes through in the charter, and it's a 4-year election, and say Nancy doesn't want to do it. She's our mayor. She does not want, after 6 months, she decides, I don't want to do it. So are we saying we would have a special election that year, or we would not?
We would.
We would have it. Okay, I just want to make sure I was understanding what it was.
Yeah, it would just be at the November election.
Correct. Okay.
As long as the vacancy occurs in time for to qualify to get on the ballot, because you still have to petition to get on the ballot.
My only thing is that, unless I'm missing something, let's assume that this passes and we have 4-year terms starting in 2027. Forget about this for a moment that we need to vote in the Board of Ed in 2029. Let's just ignore that. If that were not to happen, I don't think there's an election in 29.
No, if there is you're elected in 2027, so you're in 2028, and somebody gets sick, dies, resigns, decides to leave the jurisdiction, doesn't want to be mayor any longer, and there's a vacancy. The chair replaces the mayor, and as long as there's time to qualify to be on the ballot in November, and that ballot it will be the presidential election year.
No,
so you would go on in the presidential election year.
I understand that, but I mean, the beauty of this concept is that there's an election every year.
Correct.
What other election is in 2029? Specifically, 2029. I don't think there is one.
In West Haven, you will have no election in 2029.
There's no statewide election, right?
No, but it's the municipal election cycle, and therefore you would have to budget an election. That's so if it falls, well, in 2029 you'll have a Board of Ed election. To be honest with you, if you take a look at the section.
I know.
But let's assume you're in the 30s, and you're in a cycle in the 30s where you're in your by-election year. You're not going to have anybody running because everybody's aligned. You would have your special election that year. You would have an election.
So this doesn't 100% accomplish the goal of not having an independent special election. The whole idea is we're tacking on to another general election, but there are years that there are no statewide or federal general elections, and 2029 would be one of those years.
In Middletown, in West Haven, you would have a by-election every 2 years.
Okay.
You'd have a by-election every 4 years, actually, between your 4-year cycles. I thought the objective of this section was to reduce the time that an acting mayor would be in office, and that's why we set it up for that in that cycle. And the reality is, by merging all the elections in 1 year, aligning them, which was not my recommendation, but to align them all in 1 year, you end up in a municipal cycle where you don't have elections, unless there's a vacancy and you need to have a special election.
Right. I just think the way that we've been sort of talking about this is that the idea is that this would allow a mayoral election to be tacked on to another general election. But I want to just make sure in our heads that we understand there will be years that there is no other general election statewide or federally. So in those off years, then we will still necessitate a special election, but it will not be as frequent as the way that it's in here now. I just want to make sure we're clear on that.
But it will be on election day. So people are accustomed to going out on election day and voting. So West Haven will have a special election on every other municipality's election day that year, as opposed to having on, March 14th or whatever it may be, right? They'll
Yep.
know that as election day. Is that right?
Yeah, and this is the mayoral election.
Right.
It's the other elections we worry about turnout. A mayoral election, you have an expectation that people will come out and vote. Probably wouldn't be as much as if it was the entire ticket, whatever the case may be, but you'll have people voting in a mayoral election. That's all it's affected is the office of mayor.
Okay. Councilman Garthwaite.
I have a concern with this because let's say the mayor resigns within a time frame that we can't make it for the next general election. So then we've got to push that by what we're saying, what we're changing it to. We've got to push that around another year to the next November, whatever election, right? Is there some way to fix that in case that happens where, the mayor resigns within a specific, we miss that little window of time to get, no, there's.
I mean, you can leave the option to have a special election so that you don't end up waiting for the next municipal election. But my understanding is that you were trying to tie it to a municipal or state election cycle or federal election cycle. So there's just no way to do that. And by not having a municipal election, you would be incurring an expense in that particular year that you were hoping to avoid. The only way to do it is to do a special election, or the other way to do it is what a lot of municipalities have: the mayor who succeeds fills out the remainder of the term. That's the way to avoid the election cycles completely, and I don't think that's where you want it to be. That's the way it is in a number of communities.
This makes me uncomfortable, but
Councilman Tucker.
Is there a potential for optionality, meaning that you can have the option of setting a special election outside of the general election cycle and make the language vague enough so that it's up to maybe the council or whoever is going to decide this, so that if it falls within the time frame that it makes sense to wait for the general election cycle, you could do that, but just say, maybe we just had the general election, or it happens in October and you don't have enough time to, get a notice out for an election. You have to wait until next year.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I think if there's some optionality there that's left.
So we could have language. I don't know if any of you remember, there was a primary, 1981, Rinn and Dunleavy were the two candidates in the primary. And Chick Celentano ran that year as an independent candidate. I'm sorry, I know West Haven better than you'd like to think I do. Was running that year, and I was buying a hot dog at Chick's. It was the year I was running, seriously, it's a true story. I was running for alderman myself in New Haven. I was a brand new kid running. I was 29 years old, running for alderman. I was a new lawyer, and I was running for alderman. And Chick says, "Hey, got this problem. I got these Democrats. The Democrats can't get their act together, blah, 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 blah. They've had two primaries. I think there were two primaries. And so I'm not going to know who my opponent is until a week before the election." And so I went to court. I had worked on the water committee for Sam Irvin when I was a child. I was 20 years old or 21 when I worked there. So I was an election expert, and I was a former director of the Elections Commission. I came up with this theory that it would be a violation of First Amendment rights, of Chick Celentano's First Amendment rights. And so the case of, I think, Celentano versus Rinn, Dunleavy, and whoever else, because the Republican ended up winning that year. I can't think of the guy's name right now. Richatelli? I don't remember who it was. What's that?
Clem, Evangelista.
Evangelisti won that year, who despised me because I put his election off. I got Judge Norcott, who was on this, who later went to the Supreme Court, Nick Norcott, good friend of mine. He wasn't a friend at the time, somebody I knew. Moved the election to the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. So West Haven actually can conduct a mayoral election off cycle. I just wanted to point out that was a long way of going to that point, but I just thought, where am I? I'm West Haven. So I have a great West Haven story for you. So we could add language, Councilwoman, that would say, notwithstanding the foregoing, the council may, and you can make it by supermajority, declare a special election, a standalone special election, or something like that. We can have language to that effect if you want that alternative. Does that help? And that's a judgment you have to make.
I like it.
Does the sponsor?
I like that too. I like that too.
Is the sponsor okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good. I was looking for flexibility, so that's even more flexible.
Yeah. So I'll add that language.
Okay.
If you vote on it, obviously.
Madam Clerk, could you read the
Do you
amended
have it?
motion?
I just didn't, you're adding that to the last sentence?
So I would say, notwithstanding, it would be a new sentence. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the city council may convene or declare, I'll come up with the right terminology,
I'll just say declare for now.
declare a freestanding or standalone special election, period. That lays out the concept. And I can,
Did you want to say by supermajority?
Can we do vote?
that's what I was going to ask you, what you want. You want to do it by supermajority? Or by
Councilman
majority?
Tucker, I would support a vote of 9.
A vote of 9.
Vote of 9.
So notwithstanding notwithstanding the foregoing, the city council, by supermajority, may declare a standalone
Special election.
special election.
And I think he wanted vote of 9,
Change
not
supermajority to
supermajority.
vote of 9.
Yeah.
All right, you want me to read the whole thing? Okay. Whenever a vacancy occurs in the office of the mayor, the successor shall remain in office until a new mayor is elected and qualified following the next general election, where the mayoral candidates can qualify and be placed on the ballot as a special election for the remainder of the term. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the city council, by vote of 9, may declare a standalone special election.
Second.
Count.
You can't make a motion. So, motion.
So we have a new motion made by Tucker,
Yeah.
Second by
Heffernan.
Heffernan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one oppose?
Who's opposed?
Garthwaite. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, there's one other item that's in your draft just below that. I was asked to come up with procedures pertaining to a mayoral vacancy. I don't know if you recall.
Yes.
And so that's what this language does. Let me, if I may, just briefly describe this. I kind of misspoke the other night because the language in the Hartford Charter is for declaring a temporary vacancy. Hartford has removal language, so they don't need their removal language would cover a permanent vacancy, to create a permanent vacancy. So in effect, this is a limited removal provision in effect. And remember, I told you earlier that there's no express grant of authority permitting us to remove somebody from office, and I had advised against including termination, or I'm sorry, removal provisions in general that have a wide range of reasons why you can remove somebody from office. But I tailored it as a very narrow removal relating to illness, temporary absence, or absence from the city, et cetera. Or not temporary absence, but absence from the city, illness, unavailability, or other reasons that inhibit the ability to perform the duties of mayor under the charter. So it requires an evidentiary determination. It also has a definition of absence in it that basically says, even though the mayor is absent from the community, it's not considered absent if the mayor is in touch, and I put the director of finance as a significant figure, or the chair of the council by electronic or voice communications. The idea of that is that if the mayor goes off on a trip to a fact-finding trip to Central Africa with the National League of Cities or the U.S. Conference of Mayors and go on for a week, you all on the council can't go out here and say, we're going to declare a vacancy because the mayor is no longer here. But the mayor is in communication in the modern world. You're not going to take him out. The other provision in here is I didn't want to create all the procedures in this section, is to have a procedural ordinance, the issue of compensation, and the status of the council president. So I wanted to give you the caveat that I gave you earlier that I'm not sure of the legal validity of these provisions for removal. But as I said to the Corporation Council, I believe I said it to him earlier today, and I've said this many, many times, I argued the recall case, the recall case, which eliminated recall in the state of Connecticut. And I argue very strenuously, although it's never gone to court, that you can't put term limits on elected officials. Remember, those are election cases. Title IX recall is a de-election, basically. You're electing to remove somebody from office. Term limits limit the ability of somebody to run for office. The removal, I believe I can make an argument in the courts that the removal of a mayor, in particular a mayor, we're not talking about removal of anybody else, because the mayor is disabled. You have a Woodrow Wilson situation where the mayor's wife is running the government because she's keeping Woodrow locked up in the house, or other similar situation. I think I can make an argument that you could justify that kind of removal. But I think you have to have an evidentiary hearing. You have to have doctors, physicians that talk about that the mayor is not capable of carrying on his or her responsibilities. So I wanted to give you that caveat that my initial comment on the language was temporary versus permanent. It's a very different thing. And so I wrote the language up, and you can decide whether you want to include it or not.
Chairman, so what you're saying is that there's no municipality in Connecticut that has in the charter the ability to declare that the mayor is unable to perform duties temporarily?
Oh, there are temporarily, fine. It's not the issue of temporary. This is a section on permanent disability, permanent vacancy. We have temporary language in here already. And there are charters that have removal provisions. Some of them are based in special act. And I think if it's in special act, I think it's verified because a special act is passed by the General Assembly, and that means you have an express grant of authority. A number of communities do not have special acts. I have one in Weston, the other charter I'm working on right now, under the gun to try to get these things on the ballot for November. They have one in Weston. I've given them my advice, my caveats about it, but it pre-existed, and I did not advise them to take it out because I think it's worth keeping in, and you take your shots if you get to a situation where you have to remove a first selectman in their case or a mayor in your case. So there are communities that have them. Most of the communities that have them, not most, but the ones I'm most familiar with are special act provisions, which I think are most likely to be approved.
Okay. So basically, that it's worth rolling the dice, so to speak. I mean, this is an important enough issue that we have to have some kind of procedure in here. Otherwise, we have absolutely nothing to rely on. No procedure, no roadmap to rely on. So it's worth having it in here. And if somebody challenges it, it's one of those things that we're going to have to deal with it if and when it happens. God willing, it never will. I just talked to the mayor this morning, and we said God willing about 15 times. That's not going to happen.
I say that all the time. Yeah. I think I've turned to my grandmother. She used to say God willing all the time, and I'm now doing the same thing. But you're much too young for this.
So, okay.
All right. So my recommendation is that you do it. I think that if we have a situation where, and this is what I've advised communities that have them in their provisions, I would advise the Corp Counsel or the town attorney to go for a declaratory judgment before you take any final action, that the council is ready to move in the direction and go for a declaratory judgment to determine whether the provision that you're operating under is legal, so that you don't waste a lot of time. But it is an active case, and the courts could make a decision on it. So that's, you don't put that in the charter, but that would be my advice to any town attorney or corporation counsel.
Thank you. At the risk of someone violating the first commandment that we talked about yesterday, thou shalt not hurt your chairman, I do have one more thing to bring up. And I asked you all to consider this, and before we wrap up, I'd like to do that. Not yet. if we can go to page 53, please. Functions of the charter of the treasurer. I'd ask everybody to consider. We spent a lot of time on the removal of the treasurer because of the importance of that position and the risk of removal being politically motivated and insulating that person. I'd ask everyone to consider whether or not the reverse is also true, that we do not want somebody put in there just because the mayor wants that person in there, that this person is qualified and is willing to perform the job the way the job should be performed. So my question was, what are our thoughts about the appointment requiring city council approval? I know that we don't do that with other department heads and staff, but for some reason, there's just something in my gut gnawing at me that this position is so critical that we have to make sure it's protected. So I'd just like to hear anybody's thoughts that might have it that we approve the appointment as well as the removal. Councilwoman Heffernan and then Garthwaite.
So would you just add approval and removal of such treasurer? Would you just add 2 words, approval and removal?
Yeah, I think that under 4A, effective the first Sunday, there shall be a city treasurer appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council.
You're probably going to have 2 different election standards. You're probably not going to have a supermajority to approve. You want to have the 9 vote standard to remove.
I would agree.
So I think you need to keep them separate.
Right.
That'd be my advice.
Also, does this, in reading that sentence, effective on the first Sunday of the month of December 2027, there shall be a city treasurer appointed by the mayor. That's the date that the mayor takes office. I guess he or she could appoint that same day, but that doesn't seem to be practical. Shall be authorized to appoint. So then practically we would have, so the first city council meeting is the next day, is the Monday, and that's an organizational meeting.
Yeah, and also if you're dealing with an incumbent mayor, there's nothing that prohibits them from making a nomination prior to the commencement of the term. They're reelected, there's commencing a term, and the item would be an action item for the first meeting. Or you wait. If they don't make it on that date, this doesn't, I think you want to have a city treasurer.
So the issue is that now, since the city treasurer is an elected position, that person takes the oath of office on the first Sunday. So on the first Monday, he or she is ready to go to perform the functions. I'm not sure that necessarily is practically true with an appointed position, unless there's a way to carry over. Just like other
I just tied
department
it to the end of the elected term. I don't have a judgment call on when you really want to start it. You could make it the second Monday or something like that, so the council meeting would be intervening.
Councilman Quaglinger, is the treasurer required to sign all checks to be a counter-signer?
Yes.
But the mayor is a third counter-signatory, right?
If the treasurer is unavailable, the mayor could sign, yeah.
I struggle with this one. Councilman Donovan?
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, Councilman Donovan. I promised Councilman Garthwaite the next one.
Yep.
Just for the record, I'm going to repeat what I said yesterday. I am 100% against taking the city treasurer away from the electorate. It should remain as a position that our residents get to choose. 100%.
Councilman Donovan?
Please recall my memory. Did we put in something about the treasurer has to have certain qualifications?
Yes, that's B.
Okay, so
And the reason to do that is for the appointments, we can't have an elected person have these qualifications. We can't require it.
correct. So my thing with that is if that person has the qualifications that we require them to have, I don't see why we would have to okay the appointment of that person. To me, it's like because then we'd have to rush to get that done within the first week if they're going to sign checks, right? So my thing is John Doe meets that qualification, the mayor's going to appoint that person that met the requirements that we suggested. So I don't see why we should have to okay that, because we already kind of okayed it with the qualifications.
Council, qualifications are going to be set by ordinance, which we can't pass unless the charter passes in 27, which will immediately put us out of compliance. It seems to me that to the councilman's point, which I take, it seems to me we need to have some kind of a stopgap measure.
The charter's on the ballot this November, and the end of the treasurer's term won't be till the
Next year.
following November, so you have a year.
A year to
or
pass the
something,
ordinance.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? Councilman?
Just more of a statement that I'd like to make, because it was brought to my attention that one of the motions that I made and we passed was the 4-year term for city council. It was by no means meant to be political. It doesn't matter who gets in as long as they're doing the job. So when that came back saying that it seems like it was a political move, that was not my intent. I don't think that was anybody on this committee's intent or the council's attempt. So I think that was wrong for that individual or individuals to say. So I just wanted to make that public to everybody as well. So that was my only comment.
Thank you. Councilman Garthwaite?
It wasn't political because there's two parties here, and I agreed with you. So I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you, Councilman. Yep.
Thank you. Council, what's our next steps? Next steps.
If you're not going to act on the last thing we talked about, your next step is to approve the proposed recommendations as debated, as discussed in the last 2 weeks.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of transparency and fairness, floor is open. Does anybody want to make a motion for further revisions? For a second time, does anybody want to make a motion for further revisions? Third and final time, anyone like? Yes?
Can we change it to the emergency department czar?
Third and final time, would anyone else like to make a motion for further revisions? Seeing none. May I have a motion to recommend, to send our recommended revisions to the Charter Revision Commission? I have a motion from Councilman McMillan, who is not on the mic. Why don't you do that again?
Motion.
Motion from Councilman McMillan. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilman Tagliatella. Any discussion? Discussion.
This is to send, not approve.
It's just, right. This
Send
is to
it.
send it to them. We then have our 2 meetings with them. Then they meet individually to vote whether or not they're going to implement any of our recommendations. Then they are going to put together a final package. And then at that point, we vote yes or no.
Okay, I just wanted that on record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Just make sure the...
If you can also include in that motion the ability of Corporation Council and Commission or Council, Charter Council to make non-substantive editorial modifications of the document.
Okay.
Motion.
Amended
Motion.
They've amended their motions in seconds. Are you all good? What? McMillan.
McMillan amended it?
Yeah. We'll keep it with him. Second with Heffernan. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Melly Garthwaite.
Yes.
Councilman Peter Rivera.
Yes.
Councilman Sean Ronan is absent. Councilwoman Ann Heffernan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Nancy Tagliatella.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sarah Akbarali is absent. Councilman Gary Donovan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Edward McMillan.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dawn Callahan is absent. Councilwoman Catherine Tucker.
Yes.
Councilman David Beaton.
Yes.
Councilman Ronald Quagliani.
Yes.
And Chairman Christopher Vargo.
Yes.
Motion does carry.
Motion carries unanimously. I will let Chairman Kelly know that we are available on 6/23 and 6/24. Those notices will be posted on Monday. Once again, we will wait to know what his schedule is to send us the revisions. The final package. So we will have to schedule a meeting in July, and then we will schedule a meeting on 8/25 as a second meeting. Folks, we accomplished probably a month or two's worth of work in 4 nights. I know that you all can't stand me at the moment, but thank you for your thoughtfulness. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your dedication, and thank you for your patience. I really appreciate you all. It's been exhausting, but it's been an absolute pleasure to lead and to work this process. Councilman Quagliani, thank you for everything that you have done, being the liaison to the commission and reporting back and keeping us informed in all of your insight. That's been very, very valuable, and I thank you personally for that. Anything else, Attorney?
One last housekeeping, and I second the motion of the chair. This is an outstanding council. I have to say, based on my experience around the state, you guys did a great job in a very short period of time, and really impressive. So I want to just say where we are. So we're going to tonight. The Corp Council is going to stay up all night and get me the document. So I will wake up early in the morning and fix the document to put my changes in the document to make sure we have a fully aligned document. I know he's traveling this weekend, so what I'll do is maybe send it to you, Mr. Chair, and if you want to distribute it to the members of the body, please don't ruin your weekend, but if you want to look at it, please look at it and send any kind of nit editorial comments, or if we really miss something that is justified by the record that we can make the change, we will do so. So I ask everybody to look at it because Monday is the day we will file the document. So we have a 3-day, take Juneteenth off and let's pray. That's a very important holiday from my perspective. But maybe Saturday or Sunday, you guys can take a look at it. But I'll get them out to you at some point during the day, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I neglected to mention, Council, you both, thank you so much. I know that we kept you here long nights away from your families. Outstanding work. With that, the time is 8:49. I don't care who makes the motion. We're going home.